Across the United States, few machines shaped the nation like the train. Steel wheels, endless rails, and the railroad bridges that connected an island to the world. Until one night, they didn't. In the era of the Gilded Age, one hurricane on the Texas Gulf Coast killed 8,000 people and destroyed every connection between Galveston Island and the mainland, except one railroad bridge. This is the story of the Galveston hurricane of 1900 and the railroad that saved the survivors. This is Rail Hunters USA. A documentary look at the trains that built America. September 8, 1900. Galveston, Texas. The storm surge reached 15 feet. The highest point on the island was 9 feet above sea level. Every bridge connecting the island to the mainland was washed away. Every telegraph and telephone line went down. 15 miles of railroad track were destroyed. By the time the wind stopped, 8,000 people were dead. And Galveston was completely cut off from the world. 3 railroad bridges connected Galveston Island to the Texas mainland. The storm destroyed 2 of them completely. The third, owned by the Gulf, Colorado, and Santa Fe Railway, survived. That bridge, and the locomotive that could cross it, became the lifeline of a city that had no other connection to the outside world. The first relief trains crossed the Santa Fe Bridge on September 10th and 11th. They carried water, food, medical supplies, and the workers who would begin the work of clearing debris and recovering the dead. The island they arrived at was unrecognizable. Every dwelling had been damaged. The port that had moved millions of tons of cotton was covered in wreckage. If you want to see how this train story ends, here's what I ask. See that subscribe button? It's our exchange. Your way of saying this reached you. Hit subscribe if this resonated, drop a like if it moved you, and tell us in the comments what you know about this train or railway line. It helps us share more stories like this. Back to the locomotive. Before the storm, Galveston was the most important port in Texas, the Wall Street of the Southwest, and the Ellis Island of the West. The city of 38,000 had surpassed New Orleans to become the top cotton shipping port in America. Isaac Klein, the chief of the Galveston Weather Bureau, had published an article in 1895 arguing that a destructive hurricane hitting Galveston was, in his words, simply an absurd delusion. On September 8, 1900, the anemometer at his office recorded wind speeds of 84 miles per hour before it was blown off the building at 5:15 p.m. The storm surge began rising at noon on September 8th. The island's highest point was 9 feet above sea level. When the surge reached 15 feet, those who had moved to the upper floors of strong buildings survived. Those in frame houses on low ground did not. The island had no communication with the outside world for approximately 36 hours after the storm. When a boat finally reached the mainland at 3 a.m. on September 10th, messengers telegraphed Texas Governor Sayers and President McKinley, "The city of Galveston is in ruins." Houston mobilized within hours, and approximately 100,000 gallons of water were brought to the island by rail in the immediate aftermath. A city surrounded on all sides by salt water, with its water infrastructure destroyed. The dead were so numerous that burial was impossible. About 700 bodies were taken out to sea and dumped. When Gulf currents washed many of them back to the beach, funeral pyres were set up. The pyres burned on the beaches for several weeks. Clara Barton arrived in Galveston on September 17th. She was 78 years old. She had organized Red Cross relief for the Franco-Prussian War and the Johnstown flood. She came by rail and remained for 5 weeks directing the Red Cross response. By September 13th, martial law had been declared. The Texas militia arrived by rail. They established tent cities on the beach for the approximately 10,000 people left homeless. 3 engineers designed the Galveston seawall, 17 feet high, 10 miles long, with sheet piling going 40 to 50 feet into the ground. Construction began in October 1902. By July 1904, the first 3.5 miles were complete. The railroad brought every ton of material. The grade-raising operation was even more extraordinary. The entire city was elevated, some sections by as much as 17 feet, using fill material pumped through temporary canals from the port. Buildings were lifted on screw jacks and raised progressively. The operation took years. The railroad delivered everything it needed. The Galveston Causeway opened in 1912, 12 years after the storm. It carried vehicular traffic, steam railroad lines, and electric interurban service on a permanent fixed structure over Galveston Bay, replacing the emergency arrangements that had depended on the surviving Santa Fe Bridge. The Houston Ship Channel opened on November 10, 1914. The dredged waterway made the inland city a deep water port. The shift of capital from Galveston to Houston, accelerated by the 1900 storm, determined which city would define Texas in the 20th century. In September 2008, Hurricane Ike made landfall at Galveston. Modern forecasting and emergency response limited casualties to approximately 135. The seawall built after the 1900 storm demonstrably protected the areas behind it. The engineering decisions made in 1902 were validated by a hurricane 106 years later. The Gulf, Colorado, and Santa Fe Railway had not designed its bridge to be the lifeline of 38,000 survivors. Engineering standards that had made the bridge more durable than its competitors had inadvertently made it the instrument of survival for the deadliest natural disaster in American history. Galveston survived because one railroad bridge was built to a standard the storm could not overcome. If this story moved you, please like and subscribe. Your support helps us preserve the history of these trains and the railroads that built America. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from.